Are we filming? Yes, we are. So let's just let's move things out the way here. Welcome and thank you for watching another of my videos. I really appreciate that. Today I want to talk about data and how it pertains to this binder system, the Filofax/Filofax binder system, and certainly what I do in my life. But I want to start with the Filofax catalog archive. So Filofax. I always find it difficult to spell this unless I actually write it down, but there we go, Filofax. I'll leave a note I'll leave a link in the description. But the Filofax website has a catalogue archive. Very, very interesting indeed. And the one I'm referring to today, the one that's jogged my memory, as it were, is a Norman and Hill booklet that is dated from around about 1930. So Norman and Hill was a company that effectively was behind the Filofax brand back in the day, and they were based in London, and they had this they had this booklet that I'm looking at now that dates from around about 1930, and in there there's this fabulous, absolutely fabulous picture, and it's a picture of, I'm not going to draw it, but there's this picture of a guy sitting at a desk, and he's dressed in a jacket contemporary with the period, with those incredibly wide lapels and brill creamed hair. And what he's doing is he is decanting from a Filofax storage box. There we go, Filofax. And he's decanting to a Filofax binder. And what he's doing is he's transferring data sheets from the box to the binder. And in fact, the book is talking about, the booklet is talking about how it works both ways. So you're transferring your data sheets, in this particular case, data sheets from the box to the binder, and then from the binder to the box. And in the background of the picture, you've got this huge bank of cabinets, and each of these cabinets probably contains maybe 1,000 or more data sheets, possibly more, and so you've got essentially this is suggesting that this is the way your modern service engineering operation should work. There's some guy behind the desk, and he is transferring the data that the engineers need from the boxes and the cabinets into the binder, and then when they come back, presumably they transfer or take the ones they don't need back out and put them into the box or put them into the filing cabinet. And there's a I mean, it's interesting. I mean, obviously this is pre the computer age. Nowadays we would just email a service engineer the data they need, or they can Google it, but or perhaps store it on their mobile phone. I mean, it's just incredible these days. But this is nearly 100 years ago, and this is how they did it. And what a fantastic system of data transfer. And I really like that. I'm a bit of a data nerd, and I really like this system, and I use a similar system myself today. Slightly different, but similar in intent. But there is a phrase. There is a phrase in the book that I find utterly fascinating, and it's of its day, and I'm actually going to just write it down, because when I write it down, it's so extraordinary that it needs to be. I'm actually going to just write it down. I can't talk and write at the same time. So when a good idea or a new original idea strikes you, regard it as an angel's visit. Isn't that amazing? Regard it as an angel's visit. And then it says, and bizarre but interesting, and chain the angel to Filofax. And it says better to take time to catch one idea I added the idea in there, by the way. Better to catch one idea. I obviously didn't really have a good copywriter back in the day, but to catch one idea than see 1,000 flit by. That's a good word, isn't it? Flit by and be lost forever. Now, I think that's an amazing. It's of its time, obviously. No one would come up with a phrase like that in 2023. But when a good idea or a new original idea strikes you in the face, strikes you, regard it as an angel's visit and chain the angel to Filofax. Better to take time to catch one than see a 1,000 flit by and be lost forever. Excuse me. I mean, I think that's wonderful phrasing, and it's clearly of its time. But this exhortation, which was written nearly 100 years ago, is just as relevant today, I think. I think it's fantastic. Question for you. How many of us think of an idea and then let it slip through our minds? I know I do a lot, but I try not to. And the reason why I'm able to generally not let 1,000 ideas flit by is because of the humble Filofax, other manufacturers are available. But here's the thing. As I get older, perhaps I'm becoming more forgetful, and I guess I have the experience of life to take steps to minimise the risk of failing to catch those ideas as they pass by. But I am getting older, and this creeps up on you. So I think this. Obviously we can have a note in a notebook in our back pocket, or even a piece of paper. But the reason why I like Filofax And when I say Filofax, I'm talking about Filofaxes as in hoovering the house. We're not talking about specifically. I mean, if I have a Dyson, I still call it a Hoover. If I have a Lafax, I still call it a Filofax, because it has become a generic term. So this is actually a Lafax. Is this a Lafax binder? Yeah, this is a Lafax binder, but I'm talking in terms of a Filofax. So sorry about that, Lafax, wherever you are. But I'm increasingly finding, even though I've used the Filofax for 30 years, I'm increasingly using and becoming more organised with Filofaxes. And I have several that are effectively being used all the time for various things. But I've let me tell you something. I've often I've often woken up in the morning, and I have written something down in the middle of the night, and it's a scary thing, but I can't remember waking up in the middle of the night to write it down. But there it is, in black and white, or in this case, blue and white. I've written something down in the middle of the night as an idea, and I wake up and it's there because I have a binder. It doesn't matter which one it is, but I have a binder by the side of my bed because I know that occasionally I will write something down when I'm, half asleep. I wake up and I write something down, and I can't. I mean, it's scary that I can't remember writing it down, but there we go. And so many of those ideas I've had while I've been asleep have actually been really, really good ones. So it's a little bit unnerving, but I embrace the fact that happens nevertheless, and I certainly want to catch that angel. I don't want that angel to flit by. So this is the thing. I mean, we're all different. How do I manage this data? And this is my managing data. Okay, well, I don't have these filing cabinets full of data sheets. I certainly don't do that. But what I do have are several Filofaxes. Several Filofaxes full of data, and each one is a certain type of data. I have one Filofax for they're all personal sized. All my data per se is in personal sized format. I do have a project book which is A4, and I have inboxes of various sizes, but certainly for reference material, I just stick to the standard format, i.e. personal size that's been around for over 100 years. But I have one Filofax for passwords, contact details, and that sort of thing, assorted data. I have one for bills. I have another for what I call procedures. Now, what are procedures? Well, I'll give you an example of a procedure. J-cuts. Let's say J-cuts, because I'm working on editing at the moment. A J-cut is a particular type of edit in a video, and there's another one called L-cuts, and there's a specific difference. But what I do is I have a page in my editing data book on J-cuts and another on L-cuts, and so I've got a Filofax just dedicated to specific procedures that I use for editing, and I have various ones for sound, so I know what setting to use for different microphones and different cameras. I'm a bit of a I'm a bit of a street photography nerd, and so I have a lot of data pertaining to camera settings of all the different cameras I have and the results and that. So there's a lot of data there. And what I do is I have one of these. Quite a lot of them are vintage, as you can see, but it doesn't matter too much. I mean, some of them are really, really cheap. I mean, this is a horrible thing. What is this? Let's have a look. Okay, this is the Filofax Logic. Well, I'm not a fan of the Filofax Logic, but again, this horrible thing where the whatever it is. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's leather on this. It's some sort of look-alikey pleather, I call it, plastic leather, but it's just horrible. Anyway, I digress. So I have all these binders, and each one, I've got a photography one, I've got a video one, I've got a bills one, I've got a contact details one. I've even got one for my grandchildren, so that I can come across to them as someone who is wise and with a good memory, even though that's not the case, to be honest. In fact, that's probably the biggest reason why I use Filofaxes. It's down to the lack of memory. I'm not comparing myself to anyone else, but the lack of memory is something that, I don't know. I think I've probably been okay over my life, but I don't know. Is my memory starting to fail even more than it has? Hopefully not, because I do remember at school I was in amateur dramatics, and I could not remember my lines. I just couldn't do it, and I had the lead role in one production, and I really, really struggled with it. It was embarrassing. I had to have several prompts on stage. But I can remember it was Carlo Goldini's The Liar, and I was playing a chap called Florindo. You'll have to Google it, and if you do, you'll discover that I had to learn a lot, and I just couldn't. I really, 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 really struggled with it. But that was nearly 50 years ago, so I'm not doing that now. But the thing is, I don't have filing cabinets. But I do have all these other binders, and for me that works really, really well. Rather than data sheets being transferred from one to another, I just leave what I call the data sheets in the binders, and my way of doing it is, rather than have one of these amazing filing cabinets and transfer to one binder, well, why not have 100? Why not dispense with the filing cabinets completely and just have 100 binders? I mean, to be honest, that sounds much more fun. So there we are, really. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. I mean, you can't have too many, but maybe I do have a few more. Interestingly, these don't have to have great flatability. Can I open this? Not really, but you can see that this has this is a Filofax Domino, and the flatability is 0 on this. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because this is just rather than a working tool that I use every day, it is just for reference. So you can flick through it, and you're not actually doing much in the way of use on a daily basis. So I can get away with a cheap binder that has rubbish flatability, and I don't have to worry about it, really. I mean, this costs just a few pounds, and to me, these are just working tools sitting on shelves, storing literally thousands of pages of data, ready for not exactly instant access, but almost instant access, without fear of hard drive crashes or viruses or power failures. I mean, there's a lot to be said for having data in paper form. Although you're saying to me, you're shouting at the screen and saying, yeah, but what about burglaries and fires and stuff like that? Well, that is true. That is a risk. I haven't had a burglary or a fire, but there's always a first. So what do I do to combat that? Because I have a plan B. I always have a plan B. It's to just, every time I open one of these and take a picture, if I edit something or I add a new page, I just take a photograph with my phone. And that goes up into the cloud and I leave it there. It takes a few seconds every time I do this, but it gives me a bit of what they call peace of mind. And I'm okay with that. Just investing a little bit of time, maybe 3 or 4 seconds to take a picture, job done, and that's it really. It works great. It works absolutely fine. Really, really well. I'm a big fan of this system, and as far as data is concerned, I have a digital plan B, as it were. So in my opinion, even though this system is a little bit archaic, as it were, I think there's room for Filofax in terms of data. This is the thing. I mean, a lot of people have diaries and that, but do they use these for data? And you can build up a lot of data over a lifetime. Thousands and thousands of sheets of interesting stuff. And I prefer to reference and access that using paper. But I have the digital plan B as well. So I think it stands the test of time in our digital world that we're living in, increasingly so. But anyway, I'm waffling now. So thank you very much for watching. Until my next video, goodbye.